Your alumni love helping students and fellow graduates, but they simply don't have time to attend every event, answer every call, or learn yet another online platform. With Protopia, making an impact is easier than it's ever been before. Ever. There's no new app to sign up for or use in our already busy lives. Students, alumni, or even staff can quickly ask for advice or networking via a simple form, email, or text. Protopia's artificial intelligence searches the institution's existing alumni data to find the best experts that are the most likely to assist based on experience, availability, location, and other factors. Each matched alum receives a direct, blind email to ask them to help, giving alumni full control over if and how they want to respond, whether that's by email, call, or a virtual meeting. And if it's not a good time, Protopia's AI simply reaches out to the next alum until the question has been answered. The student receives advice right into her email inbox and is coached to engage the alum to grow her professional network. Finally, our rich dashboard lets staff follow along, view detailed engagement analytics, and access updated alumni data. Protopia. Simple for them, simple for you.
Hey everyone, and happy Friday to all of you, those joining us live on LinkedIn and those listening to us on the podcast version of Alumless. This is Alumless for Friday, May 8th, 2026, heading into Mother's Day weekend. This is Rethinking Advancement as an Institutional Strategy. I am not Ryan Catherwood. I am Kim Infante while Ryan is traveling. He is in Australia. Doing some awesome work over there. And so I am filling his seat today and joined by CMAC founder and CEO, Chris Marshall. How are you doing this Friday?
I'm good. I'm ready to go, Kim. We have a great conversation. I'm really excited about this one. And we had a lot of people sign up for this one in advance. So welcome everyone who's joining.
Yes, it's a topic all of us certainly care deeply about. Of course, on Alumless, we talk about alumni and constituent engagement strategies in education advancement with some of the coolest guests I've known. And one of them will join us in just a little bit after Chris and I wrap up our conversation. And if you're listening to us by podcast, we're really grateful that you've added us to your feed. We're also grateful to the teams that sponsor Alumless and Alumless World and our Alumless Take series. And those are Protopia, Alumni Q, GiveZ, and our newest sponsor, Richmond Associates. We're really glad to have them here for season 4. And now that all of our housekeeping is out of the way, Chris, I'm going to turn to you. Today's topic, again, it's rethinking advancement as an institutional strategy. So in your work as the founder of CMAC, what are the types of considerations that advancement teams are thinking about as they're running up to this public launch of a campaign?
Right. In the ideal scenario, in situations where universities have exercised the campaign muscle in the past, and many places have done a multiple campaigns. So when they get to this next one, they kind of know how to exercise the muscle. We have a few clients we're working with right now who don't. And the first time is a very different journey into this work. And what I say is that, first step is that it's any campaign launch you need to have the entire advancement operation on board. It's not just, in this case, Scott at Bucknell's job or the VP's job or the frontline fundraiser's job to raise the money. Of course, they're going to be doing a big piece of it, but it's everybody in advancement. That's sort of step one. But the more important one I have found is the campaigns that have been most successful is where that campaign thinking and ownership of campaign is campus-wide, where everybody, so institutional approach to a campaign is really or to advancement in general, it's a team sport. At the end of the day, advancement is a team sport. A campaign is the ultimate team sport where you have to have everybody on board. And I'm talking from the president down through the vice president, multiple advancement team, all the way, alumni engagement. We'll talk about that and that's connection to it. But there are a lot of alumni shops who don't see themselves in the campaign and they think it's the other people doing that in advancement, which I think is a mistake. They got to have a role. But then deans on campus, other leaders, directors of athletics, and you go right down the line. Any key campus partners got to play a role. And I think it goes down to faculty even staff. I mean, it's a again, broad institution-wide approach. When schools get to that point, they're ready to go public with the campaign.
Well, having just concluded the Forever Orange campaign, sitting in the alumni engagement shop, I can vouch for the fact that having engagement goals definitely makes the alumni engagement team feel part of the campaign. So from your
100%.
perspective, how should teams be thinking about engagement goals?
I think start with case AEM. Every single school should be supplying or providing their data on an annual basis to case for the alumni engagement metrics project that's underway. I think it's critical. That's the crawl in the crawl, walk, run, fly evolutionary stage.
Yeah.
But you start there. And what I've seen most campaigns think about are they announce a percentage goal or a number of alumni goal. I love the one that University of Toronto did. We had Barbara Dick on here a few weeks ago who talked about they had a touch point goal. It wasn't about what percentage or how many. It was they wanted 1 million people to engage with the institution over the course of the campaign. But I think the key in it, though, Kim, is that the public version of it has to be easily digestible and understood by a layperson. Not the sausage making we do is not worth even trying to share with people. I think we have to tell them an easy to understand goal and be public and hold accountable to it and report on it. And I think those are all good steps. Let's hear what Scott's thinking, though. Let's bring him out.
I think that sounds good. Today's special guest, he is Scott Rosevear. He is Senior Vice President for University Strategy and Advancement. He's at Bucknell University, although he says he's an honorary Syracuse grad because of how many Syracuse alumni he's friends with. So I would love that.
And his daughter's a Lehigh grad, so I like that too.
Thank you, Chris.
Love it. Well, Scott, let's kick things off really simply, and we'll talk about your title. What does it mean to lead both institutional strategy and advancement, other than you probably don't ever sleep, because that's a lot?
Yeah, first of all, good morning to both of you. Glad the calendars finally synced up for us to have this long overdue discussion. I've been looking forward to it. Yeah, it's not a matter of time. It is sleep. I will say that my wife can attest. I've been dreaming a lot about work, not necessarily sure that's a great thing. And just last week when our board was here, I joked that the title really means that my head's on a swivel every day. You know, between internal and external audiences, frankly, the rapid change that we're all kind of working and navigating through in higher education, your head is on a swivel, but it's fun. And it's been fun for me to kind of be in some different spaces that I wasn't in maybe 15 years ago. As for the university strategy role, one of the first sentences in the position description actually says the role is responsible for working with the president, the board of trustees, other campus leaders, and members of our community to drive long-term strategic priorities and outcomes.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean I'm responsible for those long-term priorities and outcomes, although I am on the advancement side of things.
The ultimate cat herding position is what
yes, it is. Yes. So therefore, I need to be aware of what's happening not only internally, but in the external landscape, including with prospective students, why they would potentially choose the university. I need to thoughtfully make my team and my colleagues across campus, frankly, uncomfortable by asking tough questions, pushing when necessary, including pushing our president and others, and working with many people across campus and off campus to identify those high-level opportunities that are really going to strengthen the university. So creating the space on campus to do that has taken time for me to figure out. We're still figuring it out. Mm-hmm. But also exploring other sectors, not just higher education, and what can we learn from it.
Scott, can you share what some of those key priorities are that you're working on for Bucknell? Like what's top of mind?
From a university strategy standpoint, and I'll simplify it. The architecture has a little bit more art to it, but what are we doing as an institution to increase the number of highly qualified students that will look at us? What are we doing as an institution that will increase the number of those highly qualified students that will say yes to our offer of admission? Right. What are we doing so that not only do they stay for 4 years, but they're thriving, every single one of them, regardless of their background? And then what are we doing about their outcomes so that they have amazing outcomes that are industry leading, right? All of this is what's the value proposition of a Bucknell education, which, as we all know, higher education is under that questioning constantly today. So the priorities that are emerging broadly at the university have to be anchored on those things, right? There's 3 ways in which we're looking at that internally. This is separate from advancement. The student experience, we lead there. What is that student experience, and what can we do to add to that value proposition and make that student experience academically, socially, developmentally relevant for the times that we're in? our people that deliver, the talent on campus, the faculty and staff. What are we doing to have the very best faculty and staff? And are we aligned in the right ways to deliver that student experience? And then operational excellence. How do we run the institution? How do we run our divisions? How do we lead? How do we budget? How do we make personnel decisions, policy decisions? How do we evolve so that we're bringing the most operational value to those first two pillars, if you will? Yeah. So that's in broad strokes kind of the organizing that we've done. And then wearing the other side of my job, my team and I get to connect the dots to where does advancement plug in, right? Whether it's campaign priorities or engagement priorities, where does advancement plug in? So that's part of the fun of the role.
Are there goals and metrics around engagement and philanthropy specifically that are beyond that student experience? All important. Everything you said is critical. That's the core of why we're in business. But
yep.
Do you have any institutional framework that says, here's how we're going to measure the after part, the thriving part?
We're going to go public in our campaign later this fall. And we have an engagement strategy there, and CMAC has been a part of informing that engagement strategy. We're going to do that across 4 dimensions of alumni and parent engagement, right? And our goal is to, right now we're running around 37 to 38% engagement over the last fiscal year. And our goal would be to exceed 50% by the end of the campaign. So that's broad strokes. We want that engagement, though, to the degree possible to be shaped around institutional priorities. So an easy one is career outcomes.
Yep.
Leveraging the powerful, like your 2 institutions, the powerful alumni and parent network, right? That's our biggest asset, actually, is our alumni and parent network. They're passionate. So leveraging them like never before for opening doors for our students for internships, externships, other types of experiential learning. And we have great outcomes in terms of career, long-term, but more and more today in that value proposition question, how can our alumni and parents as volunteers help us convert into that first job, that first internship, that first job? So we're going to measure that. And we talked very openly, even just last week, with our board of trustees, and I'll be doing so with some of our more formal alumni volunteer groups in the coming weeks.
We'll take a quick pause and we'll hear from Alumni Q.
Meet Alumni Q, the only all-in-one platform built exclusively for higher education. From everyday events and email outreach to online giving, directories, membership management, and seamless integrations, Alumni Q helps institutions connect, engage, and inspire. Handling major reunions or homecomings? Alumni Q's signature events service has you covered with rules-based registration, name tag printing, real-time reporting, and giving integration. Visit alumniq.com to request a demo and start making meaningful connections today.
Yeah, let me jump in, Scott. And one of the things, as I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, and one of the things I've been so impressed by you and your leadership, which I'm not surprised you were tapped to do that broader role, was your ability to get people to be inspired by the way you talk about strategy, but also to translate that into like tangible outcomes of things that we're actually going to get work done. What is it? What's your secret sauce? Can you give a tip or two in there of how you get people to take that broad inspiration and bring it down to actionable outcomes?
So I will tell you, it's been a journey since I started to wear this hat, and I've been surprised at how challenging it has been. And, I've been here a long time, and I thought that was going to kind of give me a shorter runway to help operationalize processes and get everybody on board. And I will tell you, the last 90 days have been amazing. And our board actually acknowledged the entire president's senior team last week about how we've come together on a set of unified priorities that we presented to them last week, and how we've come together as a leadership group. And I will say there's a few things that, after a good year of a lot of discussion but a lot of sausage making and no results, putting more structure to the process over the last 90 days has made all the difference in the world. Brought in a project manager who is also our campaign project manager, so has worked very closely with me. Brought in our campaign director, who also works very closely with me because they're accustomed to doing the blocking and tackling of big processes. So brought them in, and yes, campaign and strategy are linked for sure. So there was that added benefit. But them bringing in structure weekly to the president's staff room and then daily with members of the president's team. And we ended up, once we directionally decided on a set of things that we were going to pursue, we then implemented executive planning frameworks that were consistent for everybody. And we mapped them out. So what's the reason for the initiative? What are the success factors? What are the timelines? What's year 1 look like, year 3, year 5? What are the resource needs, if any, that you need? What's going to have to come from philanthropy, if anything? What are the other key stakeholders on campus that have to be engaged sooner rather than later? What are partners you're going to need? You get the drill.
Yeah.
We have done that with everyone. And that has brought more crystallization to our strategic priorities, particularly those that will rely on external resources, but many that haven't. And it has had the added benefit of strengthening our campaign case for support, which we will reveal in November. So it's really been an amazing kind of process.
Trying to just distill, I took 4 points out of that for our listeners who are going to be, we have hundreds of people that listen to this later on, Scott. I want them to take away a couple of things. Tell me if I got it. Maybe there's more on this one, but involving multiple people cross campus is one. Number 2 is that you have people who own this, who come, a project manager, a campaign director, who come to work thinking about those things. That's number 2. Number 3 is a framework that's very clear and articulated. And then number 4, I have the consistency. You talk about, like you said, every day we're talking about these things. And that brings it home, I think, to get these things to happen. Otherwise, it just becomes a plan on a shelf you don't do anything with, right?
You're right. And we intentionally are not going to have a plan on a shelf. We're calling this a dynamic strategy. It is not time-bound. Our board wants us to be adaptable, nimble, relevant for the future, differentiating in the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
So we have to build in that muscle that's going to allow us to be flexible as a management team and pivot when we have to. And that means a year or 2 from now, things that we haven't even thought of or just started to dream about could actually rise to the top and replace some of the things that right now were there. And that's okay, right? Yeah. For all the reasons we don't have to get into, but that we all know. So you're right. So here we are. We've made it through the board meeting. We have some directional alignment on some really important strategic initiatives. We are engaging internal campus groups on what those are, while there are other things also emerging through campus groups that we're guiding. This is where my worlds kind of separate, but then blur again, frankly. So, and we can talk more about that later. But we've already mapped out what we need to do next week.
Right.
What needs to get done by, frankly, June 1st, when some of our campus just quiets down, right? And what their expectations are going to be when they get back. That's been fun. And it's really kind of brought not just brought the team together. The team was already in good shape. But to a question I heard you say in the intro, to a comment I heard you say in the intro, it's going to bring more people under the tent. Sooner rather than later. And I'm excited about that.
Scott, you talked about the team and the internal partners. Can you talk a little bit more about the role that you give to alumni, to Bucknell parents, to your volunteer boards in executing the strategy that you've come up with? Like, where do they fit in this?
So it is very tricky, right? Because, ultimately our board of trustees is responsible for approving the strategic plan and vision of the institution as recommended by our president. Our president takes the lead on guiding that, leading that, and communicating with the board. Then that kind of flows to the rest of the executive team and elsewhere. So as much as we would love everybody in our community to have direct input on what they think we should do, in order to move at the pace that we need to move at, we have to find some sort of sweet spot in the middle. And I still haven't found it, to be honest, right? Yeah. I'm a big believer in communicating and being transparent. And some of this process has had to move in different directions that I would have otherwise would have liked. As an example, we have volunteer boards who probably would have liked to have been at the ground floor of some of the strategic planning, right? And I hope they respect the process that we have to go through, and I've talked to them about that. But now what we're going to do, beginning with our alumni board in a few weeks, is share our strategic directions. And I'm going to specifically ask them some things to own in this campaign from an alumni engagement standpoint. I'll do the same thing with our parents board.
Great.
Very soon. And this probably leads to another topic later in the discussion about, just using volunteers. But I want everyone to have concrete things to do and rally around and develop their strategic planning around that really matters the most to the institution at this time.
The sweet spot you talked about, we've had your counterpart at NC State on this podcast, Brian Sisko. Do you know Brian?
Yeah. I met Brian at a wedding last summer.
Did you?
Also, another Syracuse connection.
Exactly right.
So
it all ties back to Syracuse. Really.
It all goes back. But what Brian says about that, he says, we're going to go as fast as we can, but as slow as we must.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sort of crystallizes the point that there are things that we would want to move very quick on, but we leave people behind. Then you have that, the problem of scorched earth behind you. And in some cases, you have boards, never at Bucknell, I know this. This has never happened at Bucknell University, where the board moves out of their governance role into a management role and gets, the old noses in and fingers out.
Yeah.
We've seen some boards where their hands are all over trying to implement, and it's not good. It sounds like you've gotten to a point, or at Bucknell where you are right now, is a really healthy balance where they're holding you accountable, but they're staying in a governance posture from the management team, which is great.
We couldn't have been happier with the meeting last week. So
it's wonderful. Good to hear.
Onward.
So, I want to just expand a little more on the importance of volunteerism. One of the things we found in our data is that we know that when volunteers are more involved, they're more likely, the deeper they get as volunteers, the more likely they are to be donors, and donors at a higher amount. I know your data, Bucknell, is showing the same exact thing. So it's got to be a big part of the role, expanding, not just board of trustees, alumni parents board, but there's potentially hundreds, even thousands of alums we can involve as volunteers. It's part of your strategy, correct?
Absolutely. And again, part of our strategy around institutional priorities where we know our alumni and parents can make a tangible difference. So even last night, I was at an event last night in Greenwich, Connecticut at a parent's home, a wonderful evening, and our president and our dean of the College of Management both spoke and completely hit on the themes and the way in which alumni and parents can make a tangible difference in the lives of our students today. This isn't something that happens over the next 5 years, today, and gave great examples. And how that just changed the energy was really exciting for me to see it, right? Because we do know the fact that they came to that event is a really good indicator that they're going to give, right?
Yeah, right.
And which we appreciate. And our host did a great job setting the stage for that as well. But it's in addition to that. And then unscripted, an alum last night who I'd never met from the class of 96 stepped forward and said, in the last 20 years, I've hired over 100 Bucknellians at my firm.
Wow.
And he talked about the difference that Bucknell students have made at his investment bank. Again, I'm stepping back and I'm like, I got parents here. I got alumni who are looking to get engaged and thinking about, the future of the institution. And what a positive endorsement that alum made in that moment about our students today. So alumni from all backgrounds, whether they're on a board or an advisory board, for any of our colleges, et cetera, athletics, or this gentleman last night, they make a difference. And so for us to find ways to measure that difference that they're making in this campaign is going to be a great story and a great research paper for somebody one day. But to your point earlier, it's also setting a great tone for the end of this campaign and the one to come after that and the one to come after that.
Yeah. Yep.
Scott, I hope you wrote that gentleman's name down and you shared it with your digital person and somebody was writing a story about hiring 100. And it's going out on LinkedIn for Bucknell in the next week, because that is a beautiful story. It really is. Well, we are going to wrap up the LinkedIn version of our Alumless podcast, but we're going to keep going. The conversation continues. Before we jump into the bonus segment, I'm just going to announce that our next Alumless guest is Carolyn Kimberlin from Dartmouth. So we hope that all of you will join us. That'll be May 22nd, Friday, May 22nd, for Carolyn from Dartmouth. That is the first half hour of our show, but the good stuff is coming next in our next 30 minutes with Scott. So we'll end things here on LinkedIn, and we hope all of you will stick with us if you're listening to the podcast version of Alumless.
Nice job, Kim, leading us through. And Scott, thank you so much for making this work today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.